I learned this simple prayer of being from Father Richard Rohr. The text comes from Psalms chapter 46, verse 10 of the Hebrew Scriptures. Be still and know that I am God. In today's meditation, we will say this psalm in 5 diminishing sentences as we reflect on each one and what that means to you. So gently close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Spend a few moments relaxing your mind and your body. Quietly say to yourself, be still and know that I am God. Take a couple of deep breaths and quietly say to yourself, be still and know that I am. Take a couple of deep breaths and quietly say to yourself, be still and know. Take a couple of deep breaths and quietly say to yourself, be still. Take a couple of deep breaths and quietly say to yourself, be. Begin to come back to this room, to this space, fully relaxed and joy-filled. Remember, because God is omnipresent, God is always with you all the time. There is no place closer to God than the place where you are right now. And so it is. Namaste.
The silent snow falling on the prairie, vast starry skies of desert plains, mountain silhouette in the distance, calling, calling my name. The ocean deep, alive with wonder, the forest plush with evergreen, lakes glistening in the sunshine, calling, calling my name. With healing hands and hearts so open, mindfully I see your face. You hear my voice on the breezes, calling, calling your name. A spinning leaf freed from its tree limb, a river's rush to waterfall. Each has its own purpose, calling us to love. I walk the path of the ancient ones who guide my soul to you to heal. You feel my words coming through you, a pulsing of the heart. Come to me, children, aged, young, and poor. Come to me, children, and rest your weary souls. Thank you.
Good morning and happy Father's Day to all the dads and stepdads and foster dads and adoptive dads. Today is the day that we celebrate you. And in the spirit of this moment, yeah, let's give them an applause. Yes. And in the spirit of this moment, I also want to include those, whether male or female, who have had to step into a father figure. Kudos to each and every person for the important role that you have played in shaping a young person's life. Parenting isn't easy, is it? No, see, I love that. You know, I was once told that being a parent was a lot like a balancing act. And not only did I hear that, I used to say that until 45 years ago when I married my husband, Howard, a widower with 5 children, ages 10 through 17. And everything I thought I knew about balance went right out the window. I'll be candid. There were moments I did not know if I was going to go off the grid or off the rail. All right. And my problem was, and it remains to this day, that whenever I would share with somebody that I was out of balance, they would always tell me, well, you know, the reason you're out of balance is because you have your priorities mixed up and confused. You know, just what I need, a sense of guilt when I'm already feeling out of balance. And the thing is, I don't get it, because everywhere I turn, people are talking to me about the need for balance in my life. If I turn on the television set, there's a political talk show talking to me about the need to balance national security with my rights as an individual. If I turn the channel, there's a financial advisor telling me that I need to have a balanced financial portfolio. Only here now the word balance is a bit more elusive because it seems to have something to do with my age versus the investment risk. So it seems a bit more confusing, but okay. If I turn off the television set, there are a number of authors who tell me that to obtain balance, I need to divide myself into 4 components: body, heart, mind, and spirit. And not only that, but for each compartment, there are different rules or steps that I have to follow in order to obtain that balance. I mean, this sounds even more complicated. What if I forget one of the steps or one of the rules? You know, just even thinking about that throws me out of balance. Maybe I should just create a cheat sheet. Or maybe my dilemma is that I am relying on other people's opinions of what balance means to them and how they best attain it, thinking that it must equally apply to me. It's an interesting concept. I recognize each of us as an individual expression of God, and yet at the same time, I want a blanket balance formula. Somewhat like a one-size-fits-all category that fits everyone of all talents and of all gifts. Because we are unique expressions of the infinite, then perhaps our means of obtaining balance has to be as unique as we are. I have a niece. Now she participates in these Ironman triathlons. Have you heard of these? This is where she has to swim 2.4 miles, then bicycles 112 miles, to be followed by a 26.2-mile run, all within a 17-hour period. She says it balances her. It sounds painful to me. In contrast, my husband Howard and I, we're still trying to figure out the balance where to set our thermostat during the hot summer days, you know? But what about the people here who play that glorious music for you? Have you ever seen the beautiful expressions on their faces when they hit that perfect balanced note or chord that resonates throughout this sanctuary, connecting you with God? Every time I experience that here, my heart fills with joy and with love. So what I've come to believe is that the balance, the power of balance, is within you. That's the only place it can be. For the power of God is within you. That's why it's an inside job. So what is stopping us from using our inner power? Well, some are hindered by their personal story, their past experiences that continue to shape their beliefs to this day. All the events that you have experienced in your lifetime up to this moment do not define who you are. Past experiences may have shaped your beliefs and thoughts on who you thought you were. Maybe even your past experiences having you believe that you were unworthy, unloved, or unvalued. But they do not define God's truth of your being, of who you are. Look at the past as part of the richness and the fullness of your life. Without this richness and fullness, you would not be here today. Don't beat yourself up because you didn't conform to somebody else's idea of who you should be. You do know that your self-image was not created by yourself. It was created for you by others. Think about that. You know, don't make other people's opinions become your reality. Don't beat yourself up because you didn't do better. Release the past in love and be grateful that it has brought you to this point of awareness. Author Louise Hayes writes this: the past only exists in our minds and in the way we choose to look at it in our minds. This is the moment that we are living. This is the moment that we are feeling. This is the moment that we are experiencing. What we are doing right now is we are laying the groundwork for tomorrow. It is said that nobody can go back in time and create a new beginning, but anyone can start today and create a new ending. When you begin to take conscious charge of your thoughts and your words, then you have the tools needed to transform your life, You have the choice in how you wish to use your power within. The operative word is choice. You have the power of act of choice. Were you aware that's the original meaning of the word heresy? Act of choice? It's true. If you thought or acted differently than what you were told to think or what to believe or how to act, then you were called a heretic and you were practicing heresy. Or, in other words, you were practicing or exercising your power of active choice. So, let's talk a little heresy this morning, okay? And a little later on, I'm even going to throw in a bit of pagan philosophy. Why not? Let's have some fun. You know, I have read various articles that always instruct or caution, don't give your power away. Have you ever heard that phrase? Don't give your power away. You know, every time I hear it, I just have to shake my head. How can you possibly give your power away? That is like saying that you're powerless in that moment. I'm going to clue you in. You always have your power. You always have that indwelling presence of God that is within you. How can you possibly give God within you away? You can't. Even if you could give your power away, what makes you think you're going to get it back? What if that someone you gave it to decides to keep it? Does that mean that you're going to pretend that you are powerless for the rest of your life? You always have your power. It was, is, and remains exclusively yours to use. What has occurred is that you have taken your power and you have aligned it so completely with another person's opinion or thought or belief that it has given the outer appearance, the illusion that you have given your power away. But you have not. Because at any point in time, you can exercise your power of act of choice. At any point in time, you can decide to be a heretic and exercise your power of active choice in changing your alignment, leading to a higher elevation and a deeper understanding. In the book of Job, chapter 32, verse 8, it states this: "But there is spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding." Emma Curtis Hopkins, considered by many to be the mother of the New Thought movement, stated it this way: God is the free substance that penetrates and pervades all things. If you are afraid to do anything because somebody else might not like it, then you are tied to their idea. You must do as it is right to do because you are pleased with the right. We all have different opinions and thoughts on our greatest good and how best to obtain it. The only true journey is the journey within. No matter what goes on in this world, the only thing you can work on is what is occurring within yourself and what is right for you. You have to get in touch with your inner guidance because it is the one that has the wisdom for you, that has those answers. And remember and realize that is what is true for you at one stage in your development may grow into a greater truth at another stage of your development. Know that the allness of God is urging you to be all that you were created to be. Understand that God's infinite presence is everywhere, which means it must be in you as you. Feel that boundless depth and breadth of love express itself through you as spirit. Feel the grace of God. The word grace of God has really become convoluted over the centuries, hasn't it? It used to mean, the grace of God used to mean that all of God's love, peace, joy, and harmony was always cascading over you, through you, in you, through you, unceasingly. No strings attached. That was the grace of God. However, when that wasn't some people's experience, rather than going within to find the answers, they came to their own conclusions, their own beliefs, that they began to teach and to preach that God's grace was conditional and that you had to jump through hoops or do A, B, and C, or even X, Y, and Z in order to obtain God's grace. The words, the grace of God, became further convoluted during the time frame that I personally refer to as the Calvin-Luther era, when these two gentlemen were establishing their own faith-based churches, their own religions that were attracting numbers of followers. And these two gentlemen had a mega difference of opinion regarding God's grace. One took the position that you could obtain the grace of God through doing good work. And the other took the position that you could only obtain God's grace if you had been saved. And so now the words, the grace of God, became even further convoluted as it became entangled or ensnared in another person's belief of what we refer to as a spiritual afterlife. When I refer to the grace of God, I refer to it in its original meaning, that all of God's love, peace, joy, and harmony is always flowing over you, in you, through you, unceasingly, no strings attached. That is the grace of God. We are begotten of Spirit. Spirit, as an expression of boundless love, leads us to new frontiers within ourselves. Jesus recognized this power and cooperated with Spirit by knowing and referring to it as the Father within that does the work. Knowing how Spirit works through us is vital. Cooperating with Spirit is essential for our well-being. Shakespeare once wrote, "To thine own self be true," which mirrors the philosophy of the ancient pagan philosophers. I told you I was going to throw in a bit of paganism, didn't I? I told you that. You know, we have inherited a rather Victorian viewpoint that the teachings of the ancient pagan philosophers are either outdated or they should be shunned because it has the word pagan in it, and therefore is of interest only to the classic historian. Actually, they were charismatic sages and wandering God-men, comparable to the Hindu gurus who taught the perennial spiritual philosophy. Take Pythagoras. Now, today, he is remembered as being a mathematician, yet he was also a mystic. He dressed in long flowing white robes. He wore a gold crown or a golden wreath on his head. He remembered all of his past lives and the past lives of his followers. He said that he could hear the harmony and see the balance of the universe that he called the music of the spheres. It is said that he performed many miracles, including reviving the dead. And he was proclaimed a god by the thousands of followers who surrounded him. But Pythagoras didn't call himself a god. Instead, he was the first man to call himself a philosopher, which means seeker of wisdom, and was an inspiration to all the great philosophers who came after him. Paganism honored many gods and goddesses, but like all polytheistic religions, it acknowledged a supreme transcendental God. This was the God of the ancient pagan philosophers. They weren't concerned with the outer forms of religion, but instead experiencing directly within themselves the mystical truths. Above the door of the sanctuary of the Oracle of Delphi in Greece are inscribed these words: know yourself. Now, this was the essence of the pagan philosophers. They taught that only through self-knowing can we come to knowing our oneness with God. Know yourself. Now, these words can sometimes be misunderstood unless you, as the ancient pagan sages did, capitalize that letter S for the word self. They believed that the self was a part of God and our means of knowing God. This self was not a personality, which comes from the Greek word persona, which means mask, but instead was of the higher self, or what the pagan philosophers referred to as the genius that lies behind the mask of the illusionary ego self. The pagan philosophers believed that the genius was within us as a spiritual guide. It was our conscience, meaning with knowledge. Any human sense of lack was a human sense of separation from God and all that God gives, or the genius that was within. The pagan sages recognized this wise inner teacher, this genius, as their true identity, stating that the genius is the one consciousness that lives through all beings, that they called the soul of the universe. The philosopher Epictetus wrote this: God has placed the genius inside every human being to guide them and to protect them. The genius does not sleep and cannot be deceived. Just as soldiers take an oath to honor no man above Caesar, it is right that you take an oath before the genius to honor yourself above all. This is the moment how you choose to honor yourself. Within you is the genius. Within you is that indwelling presence of all that is. Within you is the awakened mind. Within you is the transformation. Within you is God's love expressing itself through you. God, Spirit, is your spirit. All of God is with you, and all of God is for you. You are powerful beyond measure. Your point of power, your act of choice is always in the present moment within you. Namaste.
I pray the children know they are well loved by those they love. I pray that the dining tables are full of food for health. I pray for a safe place so they may sleep in peace. And I pray they learn to love one another better than me. Where there are children's tears, let us comfort them. Where people are hungry, make sure that they are fed. When others need to speak, let's listen to them. When we see they need shelter, we help them find a home. We pray for wise leaders who do not help themselves. We pray we learn to stand against those who do. I pray for the armies not to have a job to do. And I pray they learn to love one another better than me. Where there are children naked, give them beautiful clothes. Where there are no toys, teach them games to play. When things are unfair, we all work to make them whole. When it seems there is no hope, we just hold them. Power is a game played by the insecure. Wealth is ambition turned to destruction. Religion is used by the weak to control the poor soul. Politics is just another way to wage war. I prayed for understanding in the ways of the world, so we can live as one in peace. I pray for the knowledge everyone is equal, and I pray they learn to love one another far better than me. I struggle because I know my words are flawed. I struggle because I don't know the next step. I struggle often because I feel alone. And I know that doing something may bring someone home. I pray the children know they are well loved by those they love. I pray their dining tables are full of food for health. I pray for a safe place so that they may sleep in peace. And I pray they learn to love one another better